Hello, I'm Kerry, this is Sam, and this is What This Week. I'm going to start by telling you about what I've finished reading, what I'm currently reading. Over the summer in work, we did a bit of a project, like a reading and reflection group. So there was a few of us who decided to read None of the Above by Alabanza together. We took a chapter a week to read and then discuss together, which was really wonderful. This is an exceptional book. It's memoir adjacent, I want to say. So Travis has taken certain things that have been said to them over the course of their lives which have had a lasting impact in relation to their gender, and used that as a kind of jumping off point for a piece of discussion around gender binary. So it was educational and I learned a lot, but also rooted in a very real person's experience. I really like that. There's a lot of heart in this book and there's a lot for me to unpick. I think often with these sorts of books I come away thinking I have so much to unlearn rather than learn. I think the learning bit is really easy, but unpicking the biases and just the societal expectations that we have like pummeled into us from such a young age, the gender binary being one of them, it really got me thinking. So I went into this incorrectly thinking it was going to be about transness, and it's not, because inherently transness can also be binary. If we're thinking about trans women and trans men, actually it's that space in between that really needs investment in our kind of social capital, if you like, to tear us away from that sense of binary, because it doesn't do anybody any favours. So yeah, we had a really we did a reading and reflection group with a different book last summer. It's a bit quieter for us in work over the summer, so it's a good time to do it, and I had a really kind of special experience, and we had the same again this year. A really gorgeous group of people investing real time and thought into this topic and being really vulnerable, and first of all creating a safe space together, but also actually showing up and like I say, being vulnerable and sharing their own experiences or thoughts or whatever it may have been. Yeah, so that it made for a brilliant read, a really great group read. In terms of my other reading, it's mostly been shorty September focused. So I have finished Medusa by Jessie Burton. This is obviously a retelling of Medusa. I thought this was fine. I liked where it went in the end. It's not my style of writing, and I should have known because I wasn't all that enamoured with Jessie Burton's other book. What was that? The Miniaturist, I want to say. What's it going to say? Yeah, The Miniaturist. It was a bit romantic for my liking, let's say that, but really kind of good storytelling, if that's your vibe. I also read The Replacement Centre by Fflur Dafydd. Now, this wasn't quite what I was expecting. So the blurb doesn't give much away, right? When a husband or wife in the community dies, the living partner can get a replacement to help them through their grief, but a mystery still surrounds where the replacements come from and whether they are content to play this role. I thought this was going to be speculative, a bit kind of maybe sci-fi, a bit supernatural. It's not. So if I was to tell you that it's a statement about immigration, that should kind of like explain enough without being spoilery. So it wasn't quite what I was expecting. My feeling coming away from this book is that it needed to be much longer because there were quite a few reveals needed to progress the plot. And what I would have enjoyed more was for that to be a bit more, I would have preferred to do a bit more work as a reader to get to those points. But because it's such a short book, it's one of the quick reads, but because it's so short, the author had to like spoon feed us the plot driving points. I don't know, I really like show don't tell writing, and because of what this book needed to achieve in this many pages, it couldn't be that. We had to be kind of spoon fed certain plot points to understand what was going on. So for that reason, I think this could have been really great if it was fleshed out a bit more, if I had to work a bit more to get to those reveals. I think it would have been really great. So I was a bit kind of taken aback by the premise, because it wasn't quite what I was expecting, which is fine. That's on me. But I also felt that it could have been it would have been a better book for being longer and a bit more drawn out. I also have read this poetry collection called Starfish Blossoms by Samantha Rumbidza Vazhure. This was gorgeous. So Samantha is a British-born Zimbabwean author, and a lot of this poetry is about that intersection of her identity and Zimbabwean culture. There was loads to love in here. There was an awful lot of really rich imagery about food and the nostalgia of that, but also lots of nature imagery, which I really enjoyed. And she did a really brilliant job of being quite playful with language. I felt there was a lot of alliteration in here, but I really enjoyed that. And it touched on some really important topics, but did so, it was a light touch. Like I say, it had this kind of playful approach to a use of language. There was a particularly entertaining poem about penis chowder, which I thought was great. There was another one that was about pizza and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which I thoroughly enjoyed. But there were equally some poems in here that did that thing that poetry should and kind of punched me in the gut, where I found myself reading and rereading and rereading a stanza because it was really kind of resonating. So yeah, I had a really great time reading this collection. I then read How to Stay Sane in an Age of Division by Elif Shafak. I'm actually going to see Elif Shafak in Bristol tomorrow, which is very exciting. So I'm really pleased to have kind of squeezed this in before that event. This is obviously a non-fiction, and she wrote this during COVID, so there is an element of this being about responding to that sense of what next that lots of people came through COVID feeling. Like, we've created almost this blank canvas again. We've created this kind of chasm of presence by all withdrawing into lockdowns. How do we want to emerge from this as an individual, but as a society as well? So it's kind of set in that context, but actually so much of it is very relevant. There was a lot that spoke to me in here about kind of the echo chambers that we create and engage in online, and the importance of interrogating our thoughts and views and what we see online, and deliberately seeking out opinions and thoughts and feelings that are different to our own, so that we don't fall into that trap of, or that, sorry, I don't know if you can hear that, but Sam is snoring. Clearly not very interesting. But yeah, it's important to seek out those other opinions that differ from our own, even if they are abhorrent to us, so that we avoid that trap of becoming, she refers to it as like group, what does she refer to it as? Like group narcissism, basically, that we're just looking at reflections of ourselves or versions of ourselves, or we're seeing reflected back our own thoughts and opinions all the time because of the algorithm and the nature of how that works. So it's important to go out and test our thoughts and feelings by exposing ourselves to opposing views. So yeah, it was an interesting and yeah, bit of food for thought. Currently, I am reading All Yours by Claudia Pinheiro, and I have a little cheeky smile on my face because every time I look at this book, it makes me feel that way. It's so good. It's kind of, I kind of like, it keeps catching my eye when I'm doing other things, and I think, well, just do a sneaky little chapter. It's really, really great. So a wife uncovers that her husband is having an affair, and she follows him and inadvertently witnesses her husband killing his mistress. So she sets about. She's firstly relieved that clearly the relationship isn't going anywhere, so she can feel secure again as his wife, but also sets about trying to kind of tidy up and clean up after him to make sure that he's not caught. It's great. I read Eleanor Knows by the same author last year, I want to say, and I didn't love that as much as most people did. So I was a bit anxious going into this, but honestly from the first page I'm really loving it. I'm not that far in, but I can't see that changing. I'm having a great time with this. Sorry, I should have said that this is translated from the Spanish by Miranda France. So that's what I've been reading, I think, on the most part. In terms of what I've been listening to, the nice folk at Vintage sent me an audiobook copy of Passiontide by Monique Roffey, and I absolutely devoured that. It was so good. I read The Mermaid of Black Conch by the same author last year and loved that, but this was like on a level. It is feminist as fuck. It's just so good. So it's set on a fictional Caribbean island, and we've just come out of like carnival season where loads of tourists and people come to visit the island, and they have this tradition of playing steel pan, and lots of people come from all over the world to play pan where this originated. And the next morning after carnival, a woman who has come from Japan to play steel pan with the locals is found murdered. The mayor of the town then handles that incredibly insensitively, and it sparks a huge reaction and protest from the women on the island. So this is a place where femicide is common, where domestic abuse is common, where incest and rape and sexual violence are common, and so all of the women from all different backgrounds, so you've got sex workers, you've got the wife of really important politicians, you've got, and everybody in between, everybody comes together to protest this, to insist that more is done to protect women from femicide and violence from men. And it was just exceptionally done. You get different perspectives, so you get perspectives from some of the men involved, the Prime Minister and the detective, and also from some of the women who lead the camp. But you also get a little bit of narration from the victim after she's dead, kind of reflecting back on the fact that she's dead and she's now seeing what's happening as a result. The ending was not what you expect or hope for, but was incredibly powerful, and I don't want to say any more than that. I can highly recommend the audiobook for this. The narration was exceptional. It was completely immersive, and yeah, I was gripped the whole way through. It was wonderful. So that's Passiontide by Monique Roffey. The other thing that I've been listening to is Other Minds by Peter Godfrey Smith. This was a pick for one of my book groups, and it's a non-fiction for sort of September back to school reading. It's about octopuses. They do say octopuses, not octopi in the book, which I haven't looked up, but surprised me. But yes, it's about octopus is. And how, yeah, evolution at some point. I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know what it's about. At some point in history, like way back during evolution from at some point during evolution, during our evolution, there was a split in kind of strands of evolution. I'm gonna have to find applause. Okay, so it's about the evolution and nature of consciousness, because at some point there was a split in the evolutionary trail, if you like, and one route of consciousness went towards octopuses and one went towards mammals. And so you can kind of trace it back to a certain kind of like commonality, and then consciousness kind of like split in those two different directions. Cephalopods, which is your octopuses and your maybe crustaceans in general. Cuttlefish definitely is in there. I've just listened to a chapter about his experience of hanging out with cuttlefish, which was fun. Yeah, so it's very interesting. I'm finding myself thinking a lot, that was interesting, but so what? I need to know how it applies to me, because it's all about me. No, I need to know how it applies to humanity, and I hope we're going to get there. It's not a long book, so I hope that that's the direction that we're going in, but I would appreciate, as we're going, the points that are being made and the things that we're learning about the octopuses and cuttlefish and so on. How does that relate back to humanity or mammals or something that's not just kind of like, that's an interesting fact for its own sake. So that's where I'm at with that. So that's all bookish stuff, I think. I haven't been filming still. I am about to start a vlog where I read some books that are kind of gimmicky, so that'll be good fun. And one of those is going to be a buddy read with my friend Kasia, so that's exciting. So no filming. Watching, I feel like we've watched a lot of telly and I can't really tell you what it's been. We watched a film called Finch, which was so good. It has Tom Hanks in it, and that's all. So we think, because of the timing and because of how it's filmed, that it's probably a COVID film, because the cast consists just of Tom Hanks and a robot that he makes and his dog. So, I mean, the most heartwarming cast you can possibly imagine. A robot that's trying to learn how to be, a dog which is adorable, and it's okay, the dog does not die. I'm happy to disclose that. Dog's fine throughout the duration of the film. So it's kind of, yeah, it was cool. It's a post-apocalyptic world where there's like lots of really serious storms, and the ozone has been like wrecked, and it's called, he calls it like Swiss cheese. So you can't actually put your skin out in most of the outdoors because you would just be burned to a crisp. But it was really good. It was quite heartwarming. I enjoyed it. We also watched the first episode of The Penguin, which stars Colin Farrell, looking very much not like Colin Farrell and looking very much like the Penguin, and it was very good. There's a female villain in it who I think is going to be fantastic. So that's got off to a good start. The other thing that I've watched on YouTube and really enjoyed recently is Katie Coulson, Gavin from Gavin Reads It All, and Gabby Reads read A Certain Hunger together. Hang on, it's by Chelsea G. Summers, I think. And they each did a reading vlog together and kind of edited it all together. So they shared their own thoughts separately, but you got it all kind of like spliced together. It was really good. A Certain Hunger was one of my favourite reads of last year. I thought it was wonderful, and so it was I really enjoyed reliving it with them. So I'll link that video down below if you're interested, if you've read it. I mean, it's very spoilery, so I would say don't watch the video if you haven't read it, but if you have and loved it like me, I really enjoyed reliving it with them. And that's all I have to share, really. I have quite a busy week coming up. I'm going to see Elif Shafak tomorrow night after work. And Wednesday night I've got book club to discuss the the octopuses, and I'm going to have to try and string a sentence together about that, aren't I? We're going to talk about it in book club. And I Thursday night I'm going to see Prima Facie in the cinema with Jodie Comer, and I'm looking forward to that. And then next week we're going away to Devon for a few days, so it's going to be a busy week, but I'm very much looking forward to everything that I've got planned, and definitely looking forward to a few days away in Devon. Please pray for some good weather for us. Today has been horrendous, so if I'm looking more bedraggled than usual, it's because I've spent a good hour getting absolutely drenched on a dog walk today. But it is that time of year, isn't it? So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here. Let me know what you've been reading this week and what you've been watching. And if you don't want to leave a comment but want to let me know that you've been here, please just pop me either a sleeping emoji, a bed or a few Zs, or a dog to represent the vibe that Sam has brought to this video. Thanks for being here. See you again next time.